Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us today. We are here to learn about the brand new plugin Topaz Lens Effects. Lens Effects was released last Thursday and I'm super excited to show you a little bit about it today, show you a few of the capabilities. First, a couple technical things. If you have any questions during the presentation, you can type them into your questions module on your GoToWebinar panel. Ashley Robinson, our product manager, will be answering those as quickly as she can. Also, I'm happy to answer some questions as well during the Q&A portion after the presentation. Additionally, if you're having any trouble with sound or your screen, you can go ahead and re-log in to the webinar. That usually solves the issue right away. If not, you can call in to the telephone number on your GoToWebinar invitation and follow along by phone as well. Let me tell you a little bit about Lens Effects first and how it kind of came to be. Lens Effects simulates all different types of lens effects, including bokeh, different types of filters, including color filters and graduated neutral density filters, as well as specialty cameras like pinhole cameras or toy cameras like Holga and Diana's. It also allows you to really minimize the distracting elements within your image by emphasizing certain focal points and focal planes. We do that with the bokeh effect as well as the tilt shift simulation and some other blurring simulations. And all of this you're able to do after the shot, which is kind of the key element for this plugin. It gives you the flexibility to add in these different simulations after the shot. So if you don't necessarily have the equipment, such as a fisheye lens or a tilt shift camera, you're still able to effectively produce that vision that you had for that shot. So first I'm just going to show you a few before and afters and then jump right into the program. Let me show you this particular image of this rose is our toy camera simulation, which is a really fun effect. Here's before and here's after. And this is actually just a preset that we have available for you. Most of the before and afters I'm about to show you are just one-click presets. That's another key element in this program, the fact that you're able to quickly go in to Lens Effects and get what you're looking for in a very simple and quick way. We have over 150 presets, I believe over 20 effects at this point. See here. The tulip image I just showed you was our creative blur plus a color filter. This image is a fisheye simulation with a color filter and a vignette. Here's before and after. This image here is our tilt shift simulation, whether it's a tilt shift lens or a tilt shift camera. It gives you the ability to quickly isolate a focal plane, and it also has some other image adjustments. This again is a toy camera effect. Here's before and after. Again, just a quick preset. Another toy camera, before and after. That's another one. We'll just move on. Here's another toy camera again. Before and after. Again, all of those are presets that I'll show you here in just a minute. With the bokeh effect, which is really how Lens Effects got started, you're able to really minimize the kind of distracting features in your image and have some beautiful blurring effects as well as getting exactly what you want. And we have a way of creating these beautiful depth maps that give you really realistic bokeh effects. So I will show you that here in just a moment, but here's one of the images. Here's before. And notice you have your foreground here with her feet, the focus area within the background area, and you're able to effectively blur part of her feet, get her face into perfect sharpness, and blur the background as well. Let's look at a couple others. This is the image I will show you the depth map, so we'll come back to that one in just a moment. This is a preset for our pinhole effect. Here's before and after. It's just a one-click preset. This image, let me zoom in on here for you, can show you more of what our bokeh and lens characteristics can do for your image, if you look at these highlights in the bottom portion of this image, how they are creating these lovely blown out highlights with these star-like shapes. This is the different apertures that you can choose and the different chromatic aberration characteristics that you can add or subtract from your image. Can create some very beautiful effects. Here's before and after. With that, I'm going to go ahead and grab this image. Let me show you. Here's before. With this image, what I'm going to show you is the depth map creation, which will be really important with your bokeh effects. I'm going to bring her into focus, and the rest, the foreground and the backgrounds, give that bokeh effect. So here's after. I'm also going to warm it up with a color filter and a vignette to bring all of my attention right where I want it. So I'm going to take this before layer and make a copy of it. And we're going to go directly into Topaz Lens Effects by going to Filter, Topaz Labs, Topaz Lens Effects. It's the same way you're going to access all the rest of our plugins as well. When you first open Lens Effects, you'll notice that there are a few additional features on this interface. Let's just start over here on the left. This is our preset panel over here on the left, or what used to be our preset panel. Now it is our effects and presets panel. And so you'll see that this top box, this effects box, has been added. So instead of just being one group of presets, you now have multiple effects, and you can choose, let's say, our single tone filter, and you'll have all of these additional presets for that specific effect come up below that, and you're able to scroll over them and see the preset preview right up here in this small window. So again, as you scroll over, that'll change and give you just a quick preview of what you can get, and if you like what you see, you can just click on it and that will come over to your large preview window. Down here at the bottom of your preset panel, you have a Save, Delete, Import, and Export button. This Save button is specific to saving your user-made presets. It's not for saving your image. That's actually done within your host program. So you can save, delete, import presets that you might find that people created and you want to share, or export to share with other users as well. Within your menu button down here, you are able to load in, save your masks that you create with your depth map creation, so that's a really fun thing to know as well. Over here in the main window, you're able to toggle between your original and your preview by either clicking on these tabs up here on the left, or your space bar will toggle back and forth, and your left mouse button will toggle back and forth as well between your original and your preview. A new feature as well within Lens Effects is the ability to go into a split screen mode. You just do so by clicking on this little button up here on the right, and that'll take you from your original and your preview. It'll separate those so you're able to see the difference as you process the image, and you're also able just to go back into your single screen mode as well. Over here on the right, you still have your preview navigator, and you can just zoom in or zoom out. You can fit your image to the window, or you can go 1-to-1, and that'll go 100%, which is essential when you're doing things like sharpening or adding grain into your image, so you can really see what's going on at that 100% level. I'm going to go back to fit. Okay, you have your undo, redo, snap buttons, and then down here is kind of where the magic occurs. We do have tons of presets which are really great for a lot of your images, but if you ever want to go in and make your own adjustments, here are your adjustment tabs over here on this adjustment panel. As you go from effect to effect, those adjustment tabs will change and go specific to that effect. So you'll see those change, and all you have to do is click on them and it'll pop up. Down here we have Reset All, which will reset back to the default value of that particular effect that you're in. And there's also the Apply button, which is brand new and very, very cool for this plugin. The Apply button allows you to apply an effect and then move on to the next effect without actually processing your image and then coming back into the program. So for example, if I go back to this single tone and I want to apply this old school Haze 2 preset, all I need to say is apply, And now I can move on to my creative blur, and I can then have that single tone, the old school tone that I had just applied, it travels with me to the next effect. So that's a really nice thing to have when we have so many effects for you to play with. The one thing to know about this button is that once you apply, you cannot take it back within this particular session. The only way to get back to your original image is to cancel out, and if you do reset all, it's not going to take away, it's only going to reset all back to your last apply, if that makes sense. The last time you applied is where it will reset all back to. So I am going to cancel out because I want to do something else with this image, and we'll jump into the depth map creation. Okay, let's go back into our filter, lens effects. Now, where you will see the depth map creations are in your bokeh effects, these top 3 effects. And actually, the very first bokeh effect is not going to have that. This is going to be something called bokeh center focus. And it will just have, it's the more simple one. If you don't want to sit there and create this depth map and your image doesn't require it necessarily, then this is a fantastic, simple bokeh effect for you to use. You can just choose your effect center by opening up this Bokeh Adjustments tab, choosing Effect Center, and your tab or your pointer will turn into crosshairs. Note that this effect center or center position or effect position, this type of button is inherent throughout a lot of these effects that we've provided here for you. So that is this is just kind of an example of what that effect center will do for you. You just click on where you want the effect center to be. Say I want it here on her dress. And now I'm going to take my transition down. The transition is the smoothness of the transition between your focused area and then the blur, the bokeh effect that's being created. So I'm going to take that all the way down so you can see exactly what's happening. And I'm going to take my blur amount quite high, so again you can see exactly what's happening. Notice this circle right here. That is centered around where I chose my effect center. Now as I go up in my focus width, that'll widen up, and as I go down in my focus height, that'll come down. And so now I have this oval shape around exactly where I want it to be, and now I can come in and kind of modify my transition and blur amount to be what I need it to be for this particular image, but that's really how this one works. And then there's this Lens Characteristics tab, which we will go into in just one moment, so I'm just going to move on from there, but I wanted to show you that kind of simple bokeh simulation. Okay, over here in your Bokeh SLR lens, you have a simulation or these presets down here of all of these different bokeh producing lenses. So all very low f-stops and just these beautiful blurring effects, and you can work with all of these tabs to adjust it. Now I am going to show you the Edit Depth Map in the Bokeh Selective. Let's go there and just start on this. Now within the Bokeh Selective you have all of these tabs over here: Edit Depth Map, Focal Plane Adjustments, Lens Characteristics, Focus and Blur Area Adjustments, and then your Vignette and Grain. This particular bokeh simulation is going to give you the most advanced or selective process for producing the bokeh for your image. So it gives you a lot of different options, and sometimes it'll be too many options, but if you really want to get, you know, if you have a really good vision for your image and it's very specific, this is a great one to go to. Okay, when you press on Edit Depth Map, you'll notice that your image pops into two panels. It's going to go into that split screen mode, and you'll have your original image on the left and then your mask or depth map image on the right. What will come up first is going to be the program generated depth map, and as you can see, many times it produces a beautiful map for you, and I'll tell you what all these values mean and you'll see what I'm saying. But this image that pops up over here is the program generated. You will usually have to tweak it just a little bit to get it perfect, and sometimes you'll want to start fresh just because, and that's what we're going to do today. Now under the Edit Depth Map menu, you'll see these directions just to give you a little bit of guidance if you get some nice tips in here as well. If you get a little confused, don't really know what's going on, this is a great way to kind of just inform yourself about how to work with this all of these different settings. Okay, so you have an undo and redo specific to your map creation, as well as a reset that's specific to your map creation, not your entire image. This reset, whenever you reset, it will reset it to a value of whatever your depth value is at. So if your depth value is down here at 0, which is black, it'll reset it to a completely black screen, and then you'll just start fresh. Okay, so this first slider is depth value near to far. This is when you're using your smart brush selection. Now your near to far is 0 to 255, 0 being near or your black area, 255 being white or your farthest area. And we do have these little convenient buttons right down here just to help you along. There's 3 values of gray. We've found that you don't necessarily need to be so specific as in the slider, but as you click it, you'll see your slider going to those values. So you can either move the slider or click on the values. And as you click on it, that's what your brush will turn into. And that is what will be painted onto your depth map, and that's what will be calculated into the map. I'm going to say undo, get back to where we were. But that's what I was talking about, how this does generate a pretty good map actually, so, because it has the white up here on this fence area, and that is the farthest thing away from my lens. And it has this black area right down on the ground, which is the nearest thing to my lens. So it did make sense of this. It did get a little confused here with the dress, because that needs to be more of a gray value. It does have some values in there that don't really make sense. You just need to tweak it a bit. But we're going to start it completely over at this 128 value. So I'm just going to say reset. And so that went back to this. The first thing I want to do is create a gradient to go from nearest to farthest, and I'm going to go from 0 to 255, all the way from black to white. The way that I do that is I click on this little Use Gradient brush. When I do that, this other menu will pop up, and there will be a gradient starting value, which again I want to start at 0, which again is black and the nearest thing to me, and then a gradient ending value. So I'm going to keep that at 255, again, which is white and what is farthest from me. My brush size is important here as well. Your brush size will go to a value of 3 to 255. 255 being the largest, which will also be the softest brush. It's going to be the easiest thing when creating these really large gradients to have your brush size pretty large. I'm going to keep mine at 255 at the largest, and all you need to do is go from the bottom to the top, because that's what I'm doing for this particular one, and you just click, drag, and then let go of the mouse. It's a real simple process, and it starts creating this blended gradient with each stroke. You won't need to do a ton of them, but you will need to do a few just to get that gradient going and to get it pretty smooth. You may have to go back once or twice, but it does create this really nice smooth effect. Okay, so once you're happy with that gradient, which that one I'm not happy with, there we go, you can unclick the Use Gradient brush, and that'll take you back to your regular smart brush. Now all I want to do is get her selected, and that's it. I just want to select her into the value of where she belongs within this map. The way that I do that is I can click on this little dropper over here. I love this dropper. It's really effective and a really cool little tool. Just click on that. Again, your pointer will become a crosshairs, and you just click on the part that you want to have in focus after you've created this gradient. And you just say, let's just click right on her face. And you'll notice that my depth value slider went from 0 to 82. That's because her face over here on this map is at an 82 value. So that means I didn't have to guess and say, oh my goodness, where is she within this map? What value is she? Instead, I can just click on it, and now I'll know that I want to put her at an 82 value. So when you're doing a selection on top of a gradient, you want your brush to be as large as possible without going over the selection that you want. That's just because you're reselecting an area that already has value attributed to it, so you want to make sure that you kind of redo it, so to speak. Let's just do a quick selection here. For this particular one, we don't have to be too perfect because the process that we're going to work with our focal plane adjustments. I'll show you why. So once we get to something that we enjoy, as you take this brush size down, please know that your brush size is also going to become a little bit more hard, and it will be better for more precise adjustments. So if you get to a point where you're actually doing hair or something really precise, you'll want to take this all the way down, that brush size. So you want to make sure your brush isn't at all soft. Okay, so now that I have her selected, I'm going to go to my focal plane adjustments. You can again click on the select focal plane just to make this a really simple process and to kind of take some of the guesswork out of where you want your focal plane. Before I do that, I want to tell you just a tiny bit more about this whole procedure. I'm going to take my background blur amount all the way up and my foreground blur amount all the way up so you can tell exactly what's being blurred and what's not. And I'm going to put this screen back into the one screen mode again so you can just tell a little bit better of what's going on. Okay, so the focal plane position slider is going to go from 0 to 255. Now 0 is going to be again that black value, which is the nearest portion to your image. So that's right here, and that's what's in focus here. And as you move it to 255, it's going to move that focal plane to whatever value that focal plane position slider is at. So it's really just dependent upon where that value is within your image as to what will be in focus. Then you have your depth of field, which is going to increase or decrease, make more shallow or go more deep with your depth of field. So that gives you even more control. If you just want to select your focal plane and not sit here and play with the slider, even though it's kind of fun to play with the slider because you get to watch it go from different values to different values, you can just click on Select Focal Plane, and your pointer will turn into crosshairs, and you just select exactly where you want your focus to be. And I definitely want her face to be in focus, so I'm going to click right there. And then that ensures that she is in focus, and then I can play from there. So I'm going to leave my focal plane position right where it is. And now I'm going to play with my depth of field. I can go really deep, and that goes to a value range of 100. So it'll be 50 values above 83 and 50 values below 83. That's kind of how that works. Or you can go really shallow, and that'll again be the same type of relationship there. I'm going to go pretty big with this one. And then you can come down to your background blur amount and your foreground blur amount and really make that more realistic than it is now. I had it that heavy just to show you exactly what we were doing. But you can come in here and adjust that just how you want it. And that's what I find really cool about this procedure with this depth map. I'm actually going to take that depth of field down just a little bit. So here's what we've done so far. Here's before, and here's after. Okay, now I can come down to my lens characteristics, which you will also find in the other two bokeh simulations. This has some cool effects on it. Remember that bird image that I was showing you in the beginning where the reflection off of the water and how those little shapes were in those highlights? That's how that occurred, is by choosing an aperture shape. It'll also change a few things within your image, but it's really effective for your highlights is where you can see that. You can go to 8 different shapes, 3 blade to a circle. Then you can change your blade curvature. Watch this little shape up here on the top left as I change my blade curvature. That goes almost to a circle as I go to the higher values. And now as I go way down, goes almost to a star-like shape. So you'll see how that's affected as well with this blade curvature. It really affects those highlights again. And you can rotate it. This creamy slider is something that you will probably find yourself using more often than not. It will increase the creaminess or smoothness of the transition from your focus to your blurred area, or it will decrease it. So it's really up to you how you want to use it, but it does make a pretty substantial difference with that transition. You have your highlight boost and your highlight threshold, which are really good when you're working with bright highlights, and we can go into that in just a couple minutes. And then the chromatic aberration. Watch this picture again as I move this chromatic aberration. As you go up towards the positive value, it becomes very cool. So your highlights will have this really cool chromatic aberration effect happening, more blue or aqua tones. And as you go to the negative value, you'll have much warmer tones, and that'll be kind of red and orange tones coming through on those edges of your highlights. So again, it's really up to you. It's very subjective, and it's a lot of fun to play with. Now you come to your focus area adjustments. You have focus and blur area adjustments, and it's exactly what it sounds like. All of these sliders will adjust only your focus area. So I'm going to go to 1:1 because this first one is Sharpen. Now please note that we do have a new sharpening algorithm within Lens Effects, and it's quite advanced from what we had before, so that is definitely a plus. And we do have a specific sharpening only over here down on the left, or I'm sorry, on the left bottom area of your effects. It's called XF Add Sharpening, and it will be specific to sharpening, but it's a very subtle sharpening, very gorgeous, and you might not see it on this screen, but definitely play around with it if you have Lens Effects for a free download, or I'm sorry, a free trial. Okay, you can also, I'm going to go back to Fit to show you the rest of these. You can also change your brightness, you can change your contrast, and your saturation. Remember, it's all specific to your focus area. Now I can come down to my blur area, take my brightness down, maybe even more down, take my contrast wherever I want to take it, my saturation as well. And then if I wanted to add vignette and grain, I could do so within this particular simulation. It's very cool. It has lots of different options. That's why I like this particular bokeh effect so much. So within this one effect, we've gone from here to here. Already a very different feeling to this image, and my vision is starting to come to life here. I do want to warm it up just a tiny bit, even a little bit more than I already have. So I'm going to go to my filter single tone. Oh, and I didn't apply, and that's not that's what you have to worry about. I'm glad I did that during this so you can see exactly what you have to do to get everything back. Know that if you do not apply and you go back to, if you've just done this really painstaking depth map, you can actually come back to your edit depth map option and your map will still be there. So all you'll need to do is go back and do all the adjustments, and you won't have to redo your map, but you will have to come back into your focal plane adjustments and do all of those good things. And watch how quickly you can really do it. You can just select that. I'm going to leave my, there we go, come down here. Somewhere around here, I believe, is what we had. And then you can come into your lens characteristics, just move what you want around. Don't worry about the other stuff. Same thing with your sharpen. I know I had that at 0.2, and I moved all of these up just a little bit. That's the importance about pressing apply, because otherwise all of your hard work will go away. But don't freak out if you're worried about your depth map, because your depth map will stay there. It is saved as you go to a different effect, which I really like because I've done this a couple of times now. Okay, now I'm going to apply. And voila. Now we can go on to the single tone filter. Okay, so with the single tone filter, what I really like is if you have a cool image or if you have a warm image, you're able to correct that, or you're able to add a cool tone or a warm tone, all different sorts of stuff. There's tons of presets in here that might not work for your image, but they may work for your image. There's some lots of different effects. All I'm going to put on this particular one is this warm tone. If you ever want to change something within this filter, all you'll need to do again is come over to this color tone adjustments, and you can take down whatever you want to take down. Say maybe there's a little bit too much yellow in here for you. You can take part of that away, take part of that red or magenta away. You can come in here and change your image adjustments, which includes your brightness, contrast, or saturation, and then you can apply and move on. Now the last thing I'm going to do is show you this Add Vignette Selective tone. Or not selective tone, I'm sorry, the Add Vignette Selective. These XF adjustments here are just single adjustments that are specific to what the name says. So the XF Add adjustment is for image adjustments, just brightness, contrast, shadow, highlights, saturation. This XF Add Geometric Distortion is just for geometric distortion. Grain is for grain, sharpening. This Add Vignette is kind of a simple vignette addition, and this Add Vignette Selective is a little bit more advanced. There are some nice presets here for you. We do have different colors and different types of effects going in there, but if you want to do your own, that's what I really like. Over here in the placement adjustments, again, we have this type of effect center button. So just click on that, put your effect center wherever you want. Okay, now I can take my vignette exactly where I want. It's a little heavy right now, but that's okay because it helps me see exactly where the vignette is. We'll deal with that in just a second. So again, whatever you adjust right here, it's going to be determined where your effect center is. It'll go around that effect center that we chose. So that's really nice. Now you can come in here and change your effect or your vignette strength. It's a little too strong. Your transition. Contrast, brightness, and your opacity. So now with this selective vignette, we've been able to go from here to here pretty quickly, and it's specific to this particular image and this particular subject. So I'm going to press OK, process it back into Photoshop, and we've gone from here to here with 3 different effects. So that's just a kind of a sample workflow for you and how to create a depth map. I am going to show you in the next few minutes here just a few other simulations and effects within Lens Effects, and so I hope that some of these are something you might be able to use within your workflow. I definitely want to show you the tilt shift effect. Let's find that image. It's going to be right here. Okay, I'm going to take this background image into Lens, or I'm going to make a background copy, take that copy into Lens Effects, and I'm going to go directly to my tilt shift camera simulation. There are presets here that are kind of starting off points for you, but it's really hard to use these presets because they're not sure exactly where, it's not thinking about where your effect center, where you want your image focused, but it's great starting points for you. So I'm going to say vertical or horizontal band lower half. Let's see what that does. That's almost where I want my focus. I want it just to go across these rocks right here. Kind of go up a tiny bit on these the lower portion of these mountains. So let's see if we can do that. Just open up your tilt shift adjustments. Again, we'll have this type of effect position or center button. So just click on that. And I'm going to click right about here. So that's starting to get where I want my focus to be. I'm going to take my transition down so you can see what's going on. Now here's the transition lines, and since there is no transition, since it's a hard edge, you can see exactly where that is. And you can play with your focus area width. You can bring that up, make it more wide, or you can go take it down and really close in on that focal plane. Then you can play with your transition, see how hard or soft of an edge you really want, or what works best for your image. You can change your blur amount. You can change the angle. If you want to maybe go diagonal across your image, you can do so. So it's really up to you. Then you can change your image adjustments. We put these in here because, one of the most popular, the tilt shift lens is being used for, other than, the correction of converging lines or something like that, right now has been the kind of miniature toy scene effect. So taking pictures of live scenes, but when applying this type of tilt shift lens or camera to it, it almost looks like a model miniature scene. A lot of times those models are pretty bright and pretty saturated, so we thought the image adjustments would be a good thing to add in so you can start to really brighten it up and not have to travel somewhere else within to another effect or another filter. So let's see here, there's all sorts of other things. Distortion adjustments to allow for the correction of converging lines within architecture, as well as just creating distortion within your image, period. Can be some pretty heavy distortion in there, or just some slight distortion to really simulate what a tilt shift camera can do. When you're happy, you just press OK. It's pretty cool. Actually, let me show you the graduated neutral density filters while we're in here. Let me press apply. The graduated neutral density filter is great. A lot of you may have a graduated neutral density filter for your lens, but you might not have it for all of your lenses. You might have different sizes and you might only have it for one. So this is a great little filter to come into if you really want to take some of the brightness away from certain areas of your images. And a lot of times the graduated neutral density filter is used for skies. It's probably its most commonly used for that. So let's do, all of these presets are here for you just to kind of make it a little bit more easy in 1 or 2 stops, and it's kind of just labeled exactly what it is: bottom quarter 2 stops, left quarter, right quarter, and then we have our top half 1 and 2 stops, and top quarter 1 and 2 stops. I'm going to put it at the top quarter 2 stops, and here's before and here's after. It's just a quick, simple way to darken that blue and make those bright highlights, white clouds pop against the sky. Here's before and here's after. I love that filter. Okay, so if you want to make any of your personal adjustments, again, this is here for you to do so. So I'm going to say OK, and within just a couple minutes we got here to here. Pretty nice. Okay, I want to show you my favorite simulation, and that's the toy camera one. That's just because it's lots of different creative possibilities going on there. Here are all the different toy camera presets that we did. Let's take an image in that shows, we'll go over a lot of the different presets here. Let's do this one. Okay, let me take that in. We'll just scroll over some of the presets and you'll see how to create your own as well. So Topaz Labs, Topaz Lens Effects. Let's go into Camera Toy Simulation. Okay, this is just the default settings that pop up. You'll see that with the bright red. That's just to let you know it's your default. We do have these different presets, and note that a lot of these do not work for certain images, and then certain images it will just work beautifully for. So it's really up to you what works best. And the fun thing about toy cameras is that they have a lot of unintended effects, such as light leaks or these really heavy vignettes that come across. And that's because the toy cameras are usually made of plastic, very, very cheap materials that are intended to give this kind of unrealistic but still beautiful effect. So if you find something you like, great. If you don't and you want to kind of work on it just a little bit, let's say we got to this warm center cool vignette effect, and you maybe want to increase the vignette or change the amount of blur that's going on here, just come over here into your toy camera aberrations, and then you have your vignette strength. You can move that around, make it darker, make it more extreme, really play around there. Your camera shake, which is very common within these toy camera images because it doesn't have a very quick shutter speed. You know, you can take that down or even go more with that. Then you get to play with your camera shake angle, because sometimes that's important within these images. So you can take that whichever direction you want. You can add grain or subtract grain. You can create a double image. It's kind of double image through the middle of the image, so that's an interesting effect. And then you can come over here to your vignette placement if you want to place your vignette maybe closer to, maybe not in the middle. You can do so. You can change your region size and the transition and all of this stuff. And then the color casts are really important within this toy camera. So here we have a more warm center tone. If you want to take some of that yellow out, you can do so. It's really up to you. You have tons of different creative possibilities within this preset, and that's why I love it so much. And you also have your image adjustments. So say maybe I want to take my blue out of some of the image, I can do so. I can come in here to my image adjustments and change my saturation and go really highly saturated or more low saturation. So again, completely subjective. You can do so many different things with this plugin. That's why I'm really enjoying it, and that's why we really enjoyed creating it. But we are running out of time here, so I will go ahead and take some questions if you have any. If you have any, just type them into your questions module. Answer a couple questions. Let's see here. Art had asked if you can enlarge the preset preview image in your workspace. You can zoom in on it in most of the effects. In some, that ability is disabled, like this toy camera effect right here. You are unable to zoom into this image. There are reasons technically behind that, but if you, let's say, are back in your single tone filter, you are definitely able to get in on most of these images. You're able to increase that. You're also able to click on these little white triangles right here, and that will allow you to have more space for your preview window as well. So here's that. And now I'm able to kind of give myself a little bit more room to see the image and not worry so much about all the different effects or presets. This is great if you're not using a preset and you do want to do just your individual adjustments. This is a great way to view your image. And if you want to even see it larger, you can click on the right triangle as well to get that out of the way as well. So that's one way to increase the size of that window. David has a great question. He is a huge fan of Aperture and wants to know if it is compatible with Aperture. Yes, David, it is. All of our plugins, except for Remask, which needs layers capabilities, so that is Photoshop or Photoshop Elements only. But all of the rest of our plugins work with Aperture, iPhoto, and Lightroom with our Fusion Express, which is the compatibility software that we offer for free, and that just is kind of the middleman between our plugins in Aperture, Lightroom, or iPhoto. If you just go to our website, you can just click on topazlabs.com/fusion, or you can pull up our products tab and you'll see compatibility software, and that'll be Topaz Fusion. You can read up on it if you don't already have that installed. If you install the bundle, it does come installed with the bundle, and then there are setup instructions to help you get that set up. But yes, you can use it with that. It's also compatible with Photoshop and Photoshop Elements. Let's see if we have any other questions. It's a good question, David. Let's see here. Robin has a great question. She uses Topaz Adjust and Simplify already, and she wants to know if Lens Effects edited photos can be pulled into those other plugins and further edited. Yes, they can. Let's see here. So if I wanted to flatten this image, or even if I wanted to take this particular Lens Effects layer that I've created right here and then take that into Adjust or simplify, it takes all of that information with it to that. So here's adjust, and now I can come in here and play with my adaptive exposure or do whatever I want to do with the image, and it will take all of those adjustments to the next plugin. So yes, Robin, you can. Cancel out of there. Okay, Wendy has a great question. She says, are there any problems with this software and noise or noise reduction? Wendy, we have not seen any sort of problem with this program with noise, creating any noise. We do have a grain creation with this toy camera effect, and so most of these toy camera effects have some extra grain added in, will make it look more grain-like, but that is not it's not noise that you're seeing. However, if you see any image noise within your image, before taking it into Lens Effects, when you're first opening your image, we do always recommend that you use noise reduction such as denoise, or if it's a JPEG image that has a bunch of artifacts, maybe going into DJPEG, just so that allows you to have a better image going into these effect-based plugins that'll alter the different all the different levels of your color and exposure correction, etc. Okay, well that looks like we're pretty much done on questions, so I do hope your interest is piqued. If you do already have Lens Effects, I hope this helps you with your workflow and is a little bit makes it a little bit easier to understand. And if you have yet to try Lens Effects out, I would definitely try it out. It's a really fun plugin for a lot of images. You can download a free trial. It's a 30-day fully functional trial at www.topazlabs.com/downloads. Thanks so much for joining us here today, and I hope to see you at upcoming webinars. Take care. Bye-bye.